Not your average tabletop. Woohoo!
Welcome to Not Your Average Tabletop. I'm Zach.
And I'm Pepper.
And today we're going to be reacting or looking back at a video we did about a year ago.
Yes.
Talking about our 10 games that were on our wish list that had come out pre-2020.
Yes, it's actually a two-part series that we did then and a two-part series we're doing now. We did pre-2020 games released before 2020, and games released from 2020 and on. Those are separate top 10 lists, and we will be, in this video, going over which ones were on our pre-2020 list.
And talking about which ones we maybe have, maybe we've played, and so on and so forth. But yeah, if you like this one, you can definitely check out our other one. We should have them coming up kind of at the same time, so that'll be some more games to look at potentially.
Yes.
And I think with this, we're probably going to figure out just how spoiled we really are, and how lucky we are. So
yeah, for sure.
We will start with, I think, year 10.
Yes.
And if you don't want to be spoiled, if you're feeling really
yes, if you've really been looking forward to checking out Not Your Average Tabletop's pre-2020 top 10 wish list games,
you can go check them out.
Do not want to be spoiled. Stop watching and go watch it. The link will be in the description.
That is true. You go watch all those and then watch these. And that'll get you through your day. But we can start with yours.
Through my pre-2020 list. First up, I had Century, Golem Edition Eastern Mountains, I believe it is, which was the third in the series. I don't know which order it was released. It might have been released second, but it was the third one that we hadn't played yet. So I think I put that down as a safer pick, and we did eventually end up getting that one and playing it, and I enjoyed it quite a bit.
I would.
It's on par with all the other Century games, I think.
Right, yeah, I would agree. It's a very similar one, and I think the Spice Road kind of has three games that are kind of similar, so I think they all kind of, the first game kind of is plays similar to the first, second, third. So if you've played the Spice Road, I think it's about the same type of thing, only this one has a golem theme to it, and kind of instead of block cubes, it's got some nice crystal pieces to it. But yeah, I would say that this one kind of felt like more of the same, but in kind of a different taste to kind of the same game.
Yeah, it seems like they just kind of add a different core mechanism to kind of deal with the same core of the game.
Yeah, and I'm trying to remember, this is the one that had you go around
kind of the map and move around.
So yeah, I like this one quite a bit. So I think that's a solid series. We still haven't had the chance to play
we did not
multiple together, but that is something you can do.
We'll have to try to.
We are
make a series out of that.
We're going to have to do it at some point. Let us know below if you want something like that.
But next up, I had actually put a game on the list that I had played, and that was Conspiracy, the Abyss Universe game, which was more of just another very safe pick, even safer than that other one. Just saying that I would like to add it to the collection, actually, since at the time I had only played it online on Board Game Arena, and we did end up adding that one to the collection, and I've continued to really enjoy it, really love that game, and it even makes an appearance in my top 50 games of all time.
Yeah, and this one I've actually played a couple times on Board Game Arena recently. Kind of had a Board Game Arena kick recently, so I've gotten this one. This is one that I've played a few times because it's a nice little enjoyable game. I would say it is very much the definition of feeling like a Bruno Cathala two-player game. To me, I think it. We played it once with four, but I think all my other times I've played it's been two, and I think it works, I think, with the higher player counts, but I really liked it at 2, because it felt more like a tug-of-war, almost, in a way. It's not really a tug-of-war, but it felt like it.
What you leave your opponents feels a lot more important in a two-player game.
Yeah, I would agree, and then you kind of know that you could be leaving something. If you don't think your opponent will take it, it'll be there for you next time, too, whereas once you start having 3 or 4 players, it's just going to be a lot of change by then. So yeah, I think this is another solid one. I probably, actually, right away I would have probably said I preferred
Abyss?
Century over Conspiracy, but now I think they've flip-flopped.
Oh, nice,
So.
nice. I wonder if you prefer this next one over both of those. This is another C game, which C was already our biggest letter, and of course, on our wish list, we put a ton more games starting with that letter.
For some reason.
This next one was Coffee Roaster, which we did add to the collection, so 3 for 3 so far. I'm beginning to see how lucky we are and how blessed. Hashtag blessed. But yeah, this is a solo-only game, which probably didn't have to be a solo-only game. You've made that comment a couple times, and I agree. But it's a bag builder where you're pretty much trying to cook the beans in your bag, get them to a certain level, so that when you end up at the end of the game, pull in 10 chips out of there, that you hit a certain sum on a range there to score the most points possible, as well as some different special tokens to gain additional points. And I've really, really loved this. This is one of my favorite solo games of all time. We have a playthrough of it, so you can go check that out. We're probably going to be mentioning a lot of videos in this, so it probably won't all be linked in the description, but I'm sure you can find it.
Yeah, I really love this one as well. It's one of the few that I would play solo, but yeah, I kind of wish that it just even had a 2-player mode, because it's really, you'd still be playing it solo, sort of. You just kind of compare scores, I suppose, at the end. But I don't see any reason why. I mean, you just pretty much had to buy 2 copies of the game, and you could face off against each other by going for the same thing. But just would be nice if they had one more set.
But I mean, that would be pretty much doubling all of the chips in the game. There's already quite a few.
That's true.
But yeah. Yep. Up next, another one that we have added to the collection. A game which we also...
I can't remember. I think this one was one that I ordered you... I don't know if it was before this list or right at about the same time.
Yeah.
So it just happened to, I think they sent out an email like around the same time we made the list last year.
Nice.
So
this is a game that we do have content on because we were celebrating Dinomania earlier this year, and this is Dinogenics. So this is one that we kind of had. At one point, there was a debate between Dinosaur Island and Dinogenics. I don't know if Dinogenics was super available at that time.
Yeah, and I still don't know if it is now either.
Yeah.
I don't think that it's ever really been extremely widespread, available to get. But
yeah, so then we ended up getting Dinosaur Island then. But then, like you said, just after this list, you had gotten that notification that it was available, and I ended up getting that for Christmas. And all of my plays of this one, I have absolutely loved. You can check out our Dinomania videos to see where this ranks and our thoughts on it. But they are pretty high, I would say.
Yeah, I would 100% agree.
So far, this list is a great list of games.
I would agree. These are, looking back, these are some of my favorites too. So you got some good picks.
Yeah, there's another one coming up too.
Yeah, there is another one coming up that I might like even more than you, even though you already like it quite a bit.
Yeah, like I'm just like, oh, Conspiracy. Oh, that's probably my favorite here. And I'm like, oh, Coffee Roaster. That could be my favorite. And I'm like, Dinogenics. My gosh.
It has a very classic worker placement feeling, and
it does.
I think I don't remember if this might not be true, but I think they're doing a reprint sometime in 2023. So hopefully, then I would highly recommend if you like a classic feeling worker placement game. I would definitely check this one out.
Yep, for sure. I think that makes it a little more approachable as well, versus the gigantic dinosaur world that was just released.
Yes.
But yeah, then on to my next one was kind of a cheat. Another 2 games starting with the letter C, and we have not played nor owned either of these, and they were Cyclades and Conan, which I grouped together for no reason. I didn't really know how either of them were played. Both start with C. Just both kind of felt like just big, grand games with maybe some battling. Cyclades is actually a Bruno Catala game, but I think that one probably plays better with more players. I think there's an interesting bidding mechanism as well. Didn't know as much about Conan. These are just, I've gotten a little more into bigger, epic feeling games, and these were 2 that kind of gave me that feel from just the cover or name. But yeah, did not get around to playing these ever.
Yeah, I think I've heard of these, but I don't know too much about them.
Yep. And next up was another game that we did end up getting.
My favorite one on your list right now, I think.
Yep, and might be mine as well. This is Cthulhu, Death May Die, which we should probably insert your reaction to when I first announced this, back when we did this video, and you're just like, oh boy, Pepper, what are you turning into? You've gone mad.
That's what I thought.
Cthulhu, Death May Die.
Oh boy.
Take that in.
I'm gonna just tell you right now, Cthulhu isn't really a theme that excites me. So
yeah,
I guess, and not saying that the games aren't good or anything. A lot of people love a lot of the games, so I'm just gonna say I know nothing about it because I've never looked at it. So
and you were fair to assume that because
never was a big fan of the Cthulhu world or mythos or whatever theme.
And just kind of like the theme-wise, it wouldn't have gotten me. But I had watched a playthrough on the Dice Tower that they did of it, and in that it just looked super fun and super epic, just running around a board and chucking dice and trying to survive as you're going mad, closer to death, but also getting more powerful at the same time. Just looked so fun, just plain fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say that's exactly what it is.
Yes.
A huge time dice chucker, and like you said, you're going mad, but you're kind of getting more powerful. So you're getting closer to death, but you're just able to do a lot of cool combos and damage. And I just remember one play that we had where I don't remember. I threw something to you.
I ran around, gathered all the bad people. I was gonna die.
Yes, you were dying like either way. So you just decided. I don't know what item it was. It was like a grenade or something.
Yeah, I think it was like 2 parts of an item or something. Yes. I had 1 part, and I ran, got in a space with you. You handed me the item. Mm-hmm. I went, and I just blew up all of the baddies that I brought with me. And it was just
pretty epic.
Just those moments that even such a long time later we're still remembering those. And I knew exactly the moment you were going to bring up too when you started saying that. The game is full of those.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd agree. And you can go watch our top 50 of all time and possibly even my top 10 to see where that ranks. And that was earlier this year. So
yes.
And currently it's I think they've got a season. No, they've got a season 3 on Kickstarter.
Yes, Fear of the Unknown.
So I've got to look into that.
Next up is another cooperative game and another game that we now own.
Mm-hmm. Which recently got played.
Yes, this is Atlantis Rising, 2nd edition, which is the one that Z Garcia just absolutely loves. I think it's been in his top 10 for so long, and just one that I knew as we got more into cooperative games that I definitely had to give a try to. And you got Nerds Day, there was a deal on it, and it just felt like the right time to get into that. And like you said, we did end up playing it, and I enjoyed this one quite a bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would agree. It had kind of a similar feel to some of those games like Pandemic or Forbidden Island or something like that, where you're kind of fighting against the game, trying to, I don't know if stay alive is the right word, but kind of keep going and try to complete an objective before you lose, pretty much. Yeah. So it had a lot of the same things there, but it did feel like a different type. There were some interesting pieces to it.
Kind of a little bit of push your luck and kind of how far out you go on the peninsula, knowing that the farther out you are, better actions, but more likely to get flooded.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I found that really interesting, and we've only had 1 play of it so far, so I'll be interested to see kind of long term because it felt like we, kind of completed at the last chance we were going to have. I don't know if we would have survived another round, so it felt like it was just about perfect timing. So I'll be interested to see if that kind of continues.
Yeah. Next up, I had Tikal, which we had played Kuzco, and just fantastic production with, I believe, is it Super Meeple, at least in the edition that we own. Just all the wonderful bits and the structures, and I think that's probably the biggest draw, and I'm kind of a fan of those kind of abstract games, and Tikal, I know, was maybe the favorite amongst gamers of the Mask trilogy. So this is one that I just felt like, probably give that a try. At worst, it's a beautiful game. At best, it delivers a really cool abstract game. But we did not get around to getting this or playing it. Still one that I'm interested in, but like don't feel like a super urgency to get it. Same with like Cyclades and Conan. Those ones probably aren't like super high on my need to play list. Tikal is probably a little higher, but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I'd probably be good with just Cusco. I guess I don't know how this one plays differently, but I think that one's solid enough, and I don't know that if it was somewhat similar at all that I'd need multiple of those. But
next up is Castle Panic, which is another safer pick because I had played this quite a bit on Tabletopia, back when I was even able to log into Tabletopia. But yeah, so this one, that cooperative game, just kind of a lighter weight game for sure. Definitely families can play this one, and we did not get this, and I have not played it. Like I said, can't figure out how to log back into my account. Tabletopia, to figure it out. But so yeah, have not played this one, but they did have a Kickstarter of a newer edition with kind of upgraded wooden tokens instead of tiles and some miniatures for the castle and stuff. So I did get the very base game version of that. I didn't go all in for like expansions and even more minis. I just thought, a nice base game with some solid components of a game that I think is a really great lightweight filler game for myself. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, I remember a couple of the times that we played that. I enjoyed what it brought to the table. So yeah, I think that's a solid one.
Yeah. And then the final one on my pre-2020 wish list was Way of the Panda, which I remember as I was describing it, you were like, "Oh, what's this game?" And you actually were taking notes and adding it. I must have won you over. So we did end up getting it. But surprisingly, even you getting sold on it like that, we have not played this game.
It is one that I've wanted to play multiple times, and I feel like I've brought it up, but I think you said that it plays better.
I think it's probably
slightly
a
higher
better.
player count, so it's like
at least 3.
Just trying to get 3 or 4 players to play it at the same time. It's a little bit tougher, especially when you kind of have to get it learned too beforehand.
And we've been kind of going through the alphabet, and W is obviously a little later in the alphabet,
That's
so
true.
I think that gives us all an excuse to not play it, knowing we will get to it. But yeah, still one that I do look forward to, and I think it's got a really cool,
for it.
some really cool things to it.
I'm excited for it as well.
But yeah, so that's my list. Oh my gosh, so I think the highlights here for me are Conspiracy, Coffee Roaster, Dinogenics, and Cthulhu Death May Die. Probably Dinogenics or Death May Die being my favorite. I'm not sure. Those are really close for me.
Yeah, I think Death May Die is probably my favorite out of those ones, but those are some solid picks, and they're all pretty different from each other too, so they kind of bring different feelings to the table.
Yep. So then on to your list.
My list. So yeah, my 10.
Ready for a huge drop in quality here.
Snowdonia, which was one we did not end up getting. I think this one was one that I just kind of added on because I'd heard about it, but I didn't know that much about it, and I haven't really looked at it too much since. But we did get Foothills, which says it's a Snowdonia experience or something.
Weird, but
so and we did play that. So and I enjoyed that.
So we get a half point here.
We get a half point for this one because I think that was a discounted game on Nerds. Game Nerds website. I think that was before it wasn't included in the Nerds Day, but I'd seen that one on there, and I was testing out the hold system or whatever that they say to use or whatever. So that was one that I had gotten was Foothills. I enjoyed that quite a bit. You're kind of building along a track, doing some different things. That one it's a 2-player only. I don't know if Snowdonia is. I don't think Snowdonia is, but I'm not 100% sure, and I don't know how close that is to Snowdonia. But I could see that it would be one that I would probably probably enjoy.
Yeah,
If it has some of those pieces
kind of.
in
I
it.
really enjoyed the kind of main board mechanism, how you're clearing out those spots and building on there. I thought that was really cool. So I'm guessing it's got some similar feels. So probably would like Snowdonia as well.
Yeah, I would agree. And then we get to Heaven and Ale, which is one that I ended up pulling the trigger on.
Yeah. Go to your friendly local game store, and this is one that you'd look at every single time.
Every single time I'd look at it, and I eventually just caved in because this was, I can't remember if I said that, this was one of maybe two or three that I had really wanted for quite some time. I think it was kind of part of the inspiration for a list like this. Just because, I don't know, it just seemed to have some things that I would likely enjoy. It has kind of the rondel board where you're picking up things. That's one of those things that I always like. And then just the kind of pattern building. I feel like pattern building's become something that I like in games. 'Cause there's a bit of I guess I'd call it pattern building. Maybe it's not exactly, but with the tile placement on it, you're kind of wanting to surround things with certain numbers to get certain rewards based on the sum of those. And then it's also a tracks game where you're just trying to get all your tracks up as high as you can, and then there's a weird mathy multiplier at the end. I don't know if that, it could have maybe been scored a little bit differently. It's an interesting scoring, but I don't know. I don't know. That's my
more
favorite.
Complicated when you're reading it than it actually is. Pretty much just trading in your higher tracks to bump up your lower tracks just until you meet in the middle somewhere, and then that would be your final score.
Well, yeah, I think you take that then multiplied by where your little guy
another track
is. So yeah, it's an interesting scoring thing, but I like this one quite a bit. We've only actually played it once. It's one of them that I really want to get back to playing again. I've seen it on the shelf because we've got it. Got it right there. And every time I see it, I'm like, I really want to play that again.
They were in suspense as to whether we actually own this game.
They were in suspense.
But yeah, I really, really love this game from the first time we played it. And I think it's the one that Z Garcia actually really liked. It might have been in his top 100 at one point, which is surprising. Just the look of it and the sound of it, I'm like, it does not seem like a Z Garcia game. And yet he hates Nidavellir. Doesn't make sense.
It just doesn't make sense sometimes.
So I was willing to give this one a shot, and definitely glad you pulled the trigger because I really, really enjoyed this one.
We gotta get this one to the table again. But yeah, so that was a solid one. Then we get to the next one, which I think at the time, and this was another one, probably not as much as Heaven and Ale, but this was another one on my list that I had wanted for quite a while, but this one was just, I think, between print runs, so a little bit harder to get, and that was Obsession, just because this one sounded like it was a heavier game, but it had the kind of Pride and Prejudice or that type of theme to the game. And that's something that Michaela really likes, so I was hoping that then they could kind of mix our two kind of likes together and see. And so I was hopeful not only that I would like the game when I eventually got to play it, because I think that one's kind of been one that's slowly been building or going up the rankings on Board Game Geek, so I knew it was a very solid game. It was well liked, but then also hoping that Michaela would like it as well, and that it wouldn't be too heavy. And I would say that this one, it is a little bit of a heavier game, so just because you'd like that theme, I don't know that this would necessarily be a game for you, because there were, I would say, our first few plays even, we had some things, it's just very easy to forget a couple of the kind of requirements to play certain cards and things, and I think that that's just one of those things that just takes multiple plays to get used to. But yeah, this is probably actually my favorite of the ones that we've played of mine.
Nice. I really enjoyed it. The couple times I played it as well, or maybe a few times, I'm not sure how many. But yeah, it's like you said, that's probably the biggest thing for me holding back a little bit, is just trying to get used to all of the requirements having to be a certain level. Even though you can gain a card, you may not be able to play it until you're I guess is that like your reputation track
Yeah,
is to a
it's
certain level.
prestige or something.
Can take a good bit to level that up.
Mhm.
And then also kind of the meeples that are needed for some of the characters to play them. But when you do actually get all those requirements, get to play like 4 or 5 cards at once, it's really, really satisfying. And so many rewards.
I would agree. Yeah, it just feels like a nice little dump of being able to this.
Yes.
Yeah, that's an awesome feeling, and I like this one more and more every time I play it. It's actually been a little while since we played it,
Yeah.
but this would probably be, trying to think on my list. This might be, it probably is the most played one from mine, although it's not too hard.
Yeah.
Once we get through my list, but I'm trying to think even maybe out of your list, I've probably actually played it more than Cthulhu, because we kind of played it a bit right away. Haven't played it as much after. So yeah, I actually think it's probably my most played one, surprisingly. Even though it's a longer game too.
You're more than like Coffee Roaster, Conspiracy, I guess.
I've played it like 5 or 6 times. So
Yeah, that's
I mean,
probably right
it might
up-
be
that's
tied.
probably
It
right
might
up
be
there.
tied for the
Probably right up there.
But yeah, I like it quite a bit.
Yeah.
But then we get into another heavy game in Anachrony, and this has been one that's kind of been on my list for a long time, and I've looked at it multiple times, and I think they've had Kickstarters since I've wanted it, and I've backed off and not gotten it just because it seems like it's a bit overwhelming, and I just don't know how much I'd get it played.
Yeah.
And yeah, still we do not have it. I have not played it. Maybe when we went to the World Series of Board Game, we should have possibly played it there, but I think we would have had to. We didn't really make a good plan of which games we wanted to play, and I think if we wanted to play this one, we'd probably want to plan a little bit to know kind of how to play it.
Yep.
But yeah, I think I would probably at this point now rather play it before getting it, just because I don't know how heavy it will be.
Yeah.
But I'd still look forward to definitely trying it out someday, and it is one that I still really would like to play. But it may not be on my actual wish list to purchase currently, at least until playing it.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd agree. Just kind of the name and the kind of look of the game, and just the thought of this gigantic box, even not the collector's box, just a gigantic box, and all these great components, just gets you excited to think about owning that, putting that on the shelf. But like you said, it is a bit intimidating, and I don't know how much it would actually get played. Yeah, I don't know if Mac would be a big fan of it. And I'm not a huge fan of heavier, crunchier games.
Right.
So I agree. I'd definitely like to try this one out. But
I think it's
play
a top,
it before you purchase.
It's a top 100 game, right?
I think so. Yep.
So board game based on Board Game Geek.
Yep.
not one of our top 100.
We're already
we haven't played
including it in the top 100.
But yeah, so still a game that I'm looking forward to trying. But yeah, we'll see. Then we get to my next one, which is Lockup.
A role-player tale.
A role-player tale.
Which we had played once
We had played
before
once.
making this list originally.
Yeah, and I really, really enjoyed that play, and it was one kind of ever since then that I wanted to get, just because of the really fun experience. I think it was outside of, well, I guess there wasn't that many at the time. I think there was role-player, kind of cartographers, and Lockup. I don't remember if there was another one in kind of that world, but it was right up there for my favorite game. But it definitely had things that made it possibly prone to some analysis paralysis. But it just has a really interesting mechanism of bidding for different areas on this prison map, and you are trying I think you're trying to have influence in and have the most, or most of them are like that, and some I think you want the least or something. But it just, and then you can have some of your each tile has a value that it's worth,
Which I love that.
I love that. So I think it's I don't even remember what they are, 2, 3, 4, 5,
And there's
and
like
then
a fist that is a different value based on something
how
else.
many cubes you have and stuff. But then throughout your round, you can place 2 of them face down, and you're kind of just you're putting them in each, or not each room, but in a random room of your choice in whatever order you kind of want to place them out, and So you're trying to kind of see what your opponents are going to do. If you maybe want to win one really badly, you kind of see if any of them are going to go there first. It just, I really love the game. We did end up getting it, and it's a solid one. It can be a little long with some AP. I don't know that I would want to play it at like 4 players.
Yeah, probably not.
But it's a solid game.
Yeah, after that first play online that we did, Tabletopia, I was like, ooh, this could probably be my favorite of this series, because I think I had played, obviously, Cartographers, and I think I had actually played Role Player on Tabletopia as well, and I thought this could be my favorite, and it's always been a game that whenever I see it, I'm like, when is that going to be in our collection? It's just one that you knew it was going to eventually, but just when, and then finally did end up getting it, and with that one play, even though it was a long play, I still loved it just as much as the first time, and I think it probably is my favorite of the 3 that we played.
Nice. Yeah, then we get to our next one, which is Book It, which I went into knowing that probably the mechanisms weren't necessarily going to be my favorite, weren't going to be game-changing, but it has a kind of pro wrestling theme, which is one of my other favorite things outside of board games. So I thought, it's a great way to mix the two, because it wasn't. There's been some other wrestling theme things out there that I just haven't been as interested in, but this one kind of seemed like the most. I don't know what you'd call it, like I don't know, marquee type things where it's got
kind of meta
pro wrestling, kind of the knowledge people have these days, kind of on the having the inside scoop kind of maybe before it happens and stuff. So it kind of had that feel to it, which I thought was pretty cool. And we did end up getting that one, and we played it. Was it once or twice?
I think twice.
Yeah, we played it a couple times, and I think it really does bring out that theme. I would say it's, like I said, I don't think the mechanisms were anything that I was like, wow, this is a game I'm going to want to get to the table all the time. But it is one that I think I'll take out from time to time, just because it's got that really cool theme, and I think it still all worked pretty well together.
Yeah, I think the mechanisms, they were, like you said, lighter, but they work, and I enjoy them. And I think this is just one of those games where you just, maybe WrestleMania is coming up, and you're just in the mood, you get that feel, and it's like, okay, I want to play this game.
Right.
It's just one of those games, kind of like Dead of Winter for me, when it's like snowing outside, sometimes like, oh, I just kind of want to go play Dead of Winter, even though it's like one we almost never play. I just kind of get that feeling like, I want to play it. Same with Ice Cool. I think this is one of those games where not going to be one that you're pulled back to too often, but sometimes you're going to really want to play it.
And actually, I think one of those plays, I almost had like a rivalry go on for multiple rounds, even though that's not something that actually is always going to happen, because of, I think you discard the cards if I remember right. But I just happened to be able to like draft the same people on multiple times, and then I had the chance to pay it off, and I think I chose not to, just to try to win the game. So I was, looking back, I probably should have just had them paid off, but I think to get the most points or something, it made sense for me to do something else. But or maybe there was one more time, and I thought maybe I'd get another chance to do it or something. I don't remember exactly, but I thought that was pretty funny. But then we get to my next one, which is On Tour, which is a flip and write game where you are touring the country as a rock band. Even though I don't know that really comes
Is it a
out.
flip and write?
It is a flip and write.
Don't you roll dice? Or when do you roll dice?
Oh, it's a flip and roll and write.
Oh, yeah, because
you're flipping the city.
And then you roll the numbers.
And then you're rolling the numbers. So it's a flip and roll and write. Flip and roll and write. So yeah, this was one that I was pretty interested in. I think it's from the same company that does QE, and I was interested in that one as well. So I don't know if I mentioned that at that time, but I was kind of interested in both of them. But I must have decided on Tour over the other one, just because it seemed like an approachable one. And they actually got lucky enough to, I think they made the app free for a while. So I got this on the app and have played it many times. So actually, looking back, this was my most played.
Yep.
I didn't even notice this one. This was my most played, and it has been because I've played it quite a bit on the app, especially right away. I was playing it a lot, and yeah, this one's a very solid roll and flip and write game. You're trying to make a kind of connect a route ascending numbers, and it's just so solid, I think, because when you hit what you really need, it just feels so satisfying. But I think, and you pointed this out, I think the app is probably better than if we did get the game, just because that can calculate your longest route. And sometimes, I think human error, you just might not actually see what the longest route would be.
Maybe it weaves in a way that you just wouldn't think that it would be best to, but it's actually the most points.
Right, or if your initial plan doesn't go as you wanted, then you might not really have a clue where your longest one really is, or your best route, and it might just take a while. We haven't played this one in person, so I don't know if that is the case, but I would feel that could be the case, because I've had to score a couple times and I was like, I didn't even realize that.
Yeah, me too.
But I would highly recommend the app if you're looking for a very quick, fun roll and flip and write.
Yeah. Yeah, I really enjoyed it as well.
Then we get to another one that we had played before, and that is Islebound, and there has been no change on this one.
Not played it since.
It's one that I'd still be interested in. I think if I ever saw it for sale somewhere, I would probably be very tempted to get it. But we just haven't. This was one that we played on Tabletopia, which just isn't as easy to use as like a board game arena. I think there's also Tabletop Simulator, which I think is a little better than that one as well. I haven't played anything on there, but yeah, just because of that, I haven't gotten back to this one and haven't really seen the opportunity to buy it. I'm sure if I really wanted to, I could, but I just remember really liking the play I had of this one, and could eventually get into the collection, but we'll see.
Yeah, and now that Mac has really enjoyed, because this is Ryan Lockett, now that Mac has enjoyed The Ancient World so much, I wonder if this is one that she would also like. Kind of give you another excuse to make the purchase.
That is true. We'll have to maybe find out someday. But then we get to my next one.
We're going to keep updating this recap every year until we own every one of these games.
Oh, boy. I don't know about that, but possibly. At least it should get shorter and shorter. Yes. But then we've got Crusaders, Thy Will Be Done. Ooh. And this was one that I think at the time of making this, we didn't know if it would be highly available, because it was a Tasty Minstrel Games game at the time, and they were kind of, at the time, possibly going out of business. It wasn't really looking great, and it was already, I think, not the easiest to maybe get the game. It wasn't cheap to get it, but we ended up getting this one, and then kind of, I don't remember if it was after that or kind of around that time, found out that Renegade Games had actually bought, or I don't know if they bought it, they got the rights to Crusaders, Thy Will Be Done, and also the expansion to it, which we may have to go back to. But we did end up getting the Crusaders before that, and we've played that one. Well, you've only gotten to play it once. I've gotten to play it several times, and I've really, really enjoyed it. It's a game of, I don't know that I call it area control, but you're trying to kind of game where you're trying to clear your board of its buildings as much as you can.
Scoring.
Get a bunch of points. It's a big, fun point game. You get splashes of points. And so if you like that kind of thing, it's got that in it. And I have enjoyed plays of it.
Yeah, this is one kind of like when I did Way of the Panda, like we mentioned, that you took an interest in that one. When you said this one, and I kind of looked it up, obviously I've always really loved the look and the cover of it, but for some reason I thought that maybe it wasn't well received. I don't know why, because I look online and I don't see anyone complaining about it or saying it's broken or anything, so I don't know why I was under that impression. But once I looked, and I think I watched John Gets Games playthrough video, and this is one that immediately would have been on my list as well, because I was like, oh, this looks really cool, kind of with the rondel action selection, with just the power of the action being determined by how many...
Kind of Mancala, too.
Cube things, yeah, Mancala. It's just so unique way to... and easy to understand as well.
Yes.
It's like
not
sometimes
too many actions.
It can get very clever and maybe too clever. This one is very clever, but not
very
too clever. It is very clean. And in my one play, I absolutely loved the game, and the production is amazing. We got, I think I got a kind of Kickstarter upgraded one, which has choice of wooden components or plastic, which I think I played with wooden, you played with plastic, so you can pick and choose however you want. But yeah, it even made an appearance on my top 50 games of all time. That's how much I enjoyed it.
Solid game. And then we get to my final game.
Our most recently played game at the time of this filming.
Surprisingly, because it's our second time we've played it, and that is Rurik, Dawn of Kiev.
Yes.
Kiev, however you say it, which is also by Stan, who designed... we just said it. I said it earlier, didn't I? Or no? Yeah, Lockup.
Lockup.
Yeah. Totally blanked. I'm like, which game was it? The Lockup, but I actually, speaking of Stan, ended up getting Endless Winter of Paleo Americans, which is not related to this list at all, and also Resurgence. So, all of a sudden, went from having none of his games in our collection to these two, which had been out before, and then now two recent Kickstarters that finally delivered. So now I have 4 of his games. So we did end up getting the Rurik, Dawn of Kiev. I don't know that this one is highly available. I don't think it was when you got it. Maybe, I don't know. But I think it's probably even less so now. I don't know if there's been a reprint recently. But yeah, this was one that we played initially. And I would say, I don't remember the experience exactly, but it wasn't my favorite.
Yeah. You can check out our first impressions of that, of course. But I just feel like, again, this is one where it's very clever kind of action selection bidding board, but I think it might have just been a little too much to wrap your head around. Kind of the higher numbers could get the better actions, but your higher numbers activate after your lower numbers. They go in order. And we never really utilized, I think, in that game, the kind of bumping up
with the coins.
With the coins, I don't think we ever really did that.
I don't think we did.
Like to turn our 1 into a 5 for who gets the better actions, but in activation, it would still be a 1 and activate first.
Right.
And in this most recent play, we definitely did that a lot more in the game.
And we played a 3-player.
3-player game, which I think was a lot better and a lot just more interesting for me.
I would agree.
So it moved up quite a bit with that last play.
I would agree, because I thought this one was possibly on the call list, and now I don't know that it is. I still don't know that it would be my favorite game, but it's definitely, that's moved it up quite a bit, seeing that it plays a little bit better. I don't know if I'd want to play it 4-player. I don't know if that would be too much, but maybe.
Yeah, I'm not sure. That would be a lot more map. That adds quite a few more spaces.
That's true.
Which I don't know if that would be good or worse, if that'd just be like too much out there to focus on.
That's true.
Too many options. But yeah, I think 3 is probably going to be the sweet spot moving forward. Probably the most that we could ever really get often to play.
That's true.
But yeah, I enjoyed it quite a bit.
So yeah, that's the recap of our 20 games that were on our wish list of pre-2020. So yeah, we got quite a few of them.
Quite a few.
Had a chance to play quite a few, and yeah, a lot of them were pretty solid.
Well, the ones that we didn't get were ones that we had played at least once before, which is interesting.
True. That is true. That is interesting. So. Yeah, I guess we'll see what that means. See if we ever end up getting these games, and eventually maybe do a recap of those last few if we ever get the chance to play them. But yeah, those are those those 20 games. Let us know below if you've played any of the ones that we haven't had a chance to play yet, and which ones are your favorites.
Yeah, what games are on your wish list?
Yes.
Doesn't even have to be just pre-2020. Any games.
Any games that's on your wish list. Let us know below. But otherwise, we hope to see you on our other videos. And as always, don't forget to
keep on nibbling
on our content.